Okay, good afternoon, commissioners, staff, and members of the public. My name is Jake Martins, and as the Deputy Corporate Legislative Officer, I will call this meeting to order and begin the meeting by recognizing that we are conducting our business today on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. In accordance with the CBRD procedure bylaw and the Comox Valley Recreation Commission bylaw number 632, the first order of business today is the election of the chair and vice chair for 2022. I will begin the process by calling for nominations for the position of chair. Any director may put forward another director's name, and I will call for nominations 3 times. And at the close of nominations, I will ask each nominee if they will let their name stand for election. If more than one director is nominated, each candidate will have 3 minutes to make a campaign presentation. Following the speeches, I will ask that you either print the last name of your selection for chair on the colored ballot that I will hand out, or alternatively, if you're participating electronically, to complete the poll that will be emailed to you momentarily should an election be required. The ballots will be collected by Russell Dyson and myself, who will count them and then announce the results. There's further details respecting a tie vote or where one candidate does not receive a majority, but I'll outline those details should the situation arise. The process for the election of vice chair is the same as I've just described. However, the candidates will be allowed just 2 minutes for their campaign presentations should an election be required. Following that, I'll ask for a resolution to destroy any ballots that were used. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions or provide more information that any of the commissioners may have. Oh, Director Hillian.
Thank you, Jake. I'd like to nominate for chair Danielle Arbour.
Thank you. I will call a further time for any nominations for the position of chair. And I will call a third time for any nominations for the position of chair. Hearing and seeing none, Commissioner Arbour, do you allow your name to stand for chair?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Then I am pleased to announce you as chair for the Comox Valley Recreation Commission for 2022. And just before I hand this over to you, we'll go through the process with respect to the vice chair position. So commissioners, at this time, I would now ask for any nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate the fantastic Director Swift.
Thank you, Director Arbour. I'll call a second time for any nominations. And I'll call a third and final time for any nominations for the position of vice chair. Hearing and seeing none, Director Swift, do you allow your name to stand for vice chair?
I will, with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then with that, I'm pleased to announce you as vice chair for 2022 for the Comox Valley Recreation Commission. And with that, unless there's any further questions, there's no ballots used. There's no resolution required. And pleased to turn the chair back over to Chair Arbour.
Thank you, Jake. And it does feel like Dr. Swift and I just got married with both of us saying, yes, I do. So yeah, thank you. It's going to be a great year for the Recreation Commission. I don't have much to say. I think there's a chair report later on as well, but I will jump in. Last meeting, we did start going through the Truth and Reconciliation call for actions. And we did the first one, which was about, everyone celebrating and telling the story of Aboriginal athletes. And I kind of reflected on that before I read the second one. I hope you will indulge me with just a quick story. And this one's targeted Director Grant, perhaps. So let's tell that story. Right around the time that we read that call, Jordan Tutu came and spoke on Vancouver Island in October and early November. Jordan had a long and successful career in the NHL from 2003 to 2017, while also finding his journey through mental health and substance abuse. He was the first Inuk to break through into professional hockey. And I thought I'd share some of his words that he shared with our communities when he visited us. He said that part of the reason why he was doing a countrywide speaking tour regarding Indigenous communities and sports, he says he was sharing a story and allowing our youth to have a path that has been paved. And he felt he was part of that. He wanted to share with them that part of the journey is to be proud of who Indigenous people are and proud of where they come from. And that whatever profession they choose, he said, we all fight a fight that nobody knows about until we open up and speak our truth. Since 1917, there has been 80 Indigenous players in the National Hockey League. Currently, 6 are active in the league, including Carey Price, who is from the coast of New Hawk heritage. Price also spoke up 2 months ago and had to take a break from hockey due to his struggles also with mental health and addiction. He entered a treatment facility. We're expecting him to come back and play soon. So I hope that those stories are worth telling. I thought I'd share them. That's one of the call for action was to do this one. The next one that I'll read is call number 88. We call upon all levels of government to take action to ensure long-term Aboriginal athlete development and growth and support to that, and continued support for the North American Indigenous Games, including funding to host the Games and for provincial and territorial team preparation and travel. Okay, with that, we will move to the management report for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Great. Any questions on the management report? There are a few items on there. They're seeing none. Anybody opposed to receipt of the report? Okay, it's received. Next, we have a couple of staff reports. The first one being the Comox Valley Exhibition Grounds Fees and Charges Bylaw Update for receipt.
Move.
Thank you, Dr. Hermier.
Second.
Dr. Swift, thank you. And over to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners. And I'll ask Susan Bullock to present this report and be available to answer any of your questions. And Susan is on the line.
Good afternoon. Through the chair, the fees and charges for the Comax Valley Exhibition Grounds are usually reviewed on an annual basis. Due to COVID and some other challenges, the Comox Valley Exhibition Grounds Fees and Charges Bylaw 244/2013 has not been updated since January 1st, 2019. The report today includes proposed updates to the bylaw, including rate increases to be implemented starting April 1st, 2022. If you wouldn't mind changing the slide. Thank you. User fees account for 11% of the revenue for the Comox Valley Exhibition Grounds. The remaining 89% is realized through taxation. The costs associated with the ongoing operation and maintenance of these areas are continually increasing, such as utilities, sawdust for the stalls, materials for construction and repairs, and contractor fees. So a number of factors are taken into consideration when setting user fees, including the ongoing operation and maintenance costs, cost recovery ratios, the types of users, events, and facilities that are available, such as fields, the green spaces, the barns, and utilities, the quality and availability of the resources, such as the occasional field flooding, summer water restrictions, and then indoor versus outdoor riding rings, etc., as well as affordability and rates charged at similar facilities within the region. A comprehensive review of the current user fees charged by the other communities with similar facilities was undertaken, including contacting the exhibition grounds at Cowichan, Nanaimo, Salt Spring, and Coombs. Local stables were also contacted to obtain information on their riding ring fees, as well as self-board stall rates, as they offer some similar services. Can you change the slide, please? Thank you. The exhibition grounds contains 7 zones, including fields, barns, riding wing, washrooms, and other amenities. Current user fees allow the various groups to reserve zones of the exhibition grounds by the hour, the day, week, or sometimes by the month, depending on the renter's requirements. This allows the user the flexibility to plan for their individual programs and events. As an example, Music Fest will rent all zones, so all 7 areas from A to G, for 10 days, whereas the Glacier View Kennel Club may rent only Zone C for up to 2 hours just once a week. Overnight camping, washroom, storage, power, water, and other amenities are available on request for additional fees for those that require enhanced services. Slide change, please. So in order to help offset the increasing operational maintenance and capital improvement costs of the 40-acre Comox Valley exhibition grounds, staff are recommending a general user fee increase of 3% per year for the next 3 years, starting April 1st, 2022. In addition to the 3% annual increase, the staff are recommending the following changes to the bylaw. The first one is the addition of some definitions to clarify family, commercial, and not-for-profit. A fee bump in 2022 for the annual riding ring pass, followed by the 3% increase per year. This fee was identified as being significantly lower than other exhibition grounds on the island and local riding facilities. The addition of a monthly riding pass option for individuals and families. A fee bump in 2022 for camping, and a fee bump in 2022 for self-board stalls, followed by a 3% increase per year. This fee was also identified as being substantially lower. And also the cost of certain expenses like sawdust has substantially increased since the start of COVID. And now costs, just to give you an idea, about $10 per day per stall. The addition of a water charge with events for over 200 people. So when offsite water is needed to be brought in during water restrictions, and all events over 200 people will also have to have a water plan in place. Development of a 2-tiered fee structure for the self-board stalls, 1 fee rate for public and not-for-profit programs, and another fee rate for commercial or personal use. In order to have the new rates in effect for the spring and summer programs and events, staff are recommending that the bylaw be amended at this time for fees to start April 1st. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Thank you to staff for the report. Any comments or questions? And please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Director Grieve, you're first in my feed. And yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, you're first in my books too, Daniel. Just a question. I know the last time I checked, our hydro bill for the site was running around $24,000 a year. Now, I was looking at some of the fees and charges that were, you know, and they're more than reasonable, let's say. And I know that that the camping fee, I don't think you can camp anywhere that cheaply. But I'm concerned more about the actual utilities. I don't think we should, because we pay so much money out of taxation for this site and very little return. I just want to know from Kevin, I guess this goes through to Kevin, through the chair and the CAO. Are we recouping all our hydro and water fees, like just the utilities on this site, through our user fees?
Thanks for the comments. Over to staff.
Kevin, if you're on, otherwise Susan, if you can help assist in an answer.
Yeah, I am on, Russell. Thank you, through the chair to the directors. So I was just pulling up that budget. So right now it appears that water costs are running us about $8,500 a year. And I'm just trying to source out hydro here. Bear with me 1 second. Hydro costs are coming in at about, we budget 29. Currently 2021 actuals are about 23 and a half. So, and then of course we are recouping those largely through, you know, a combination of the other revenues associated with the service, but predominantly the requisition, correct.
Was that 23,000 or 2,300?
23,000 for the year so far.
Thank you. And what about the question about the camping as to whether it's substantially below what we see elsewhere. Is there a history around that, or is that information accurate for staff?
Through the chair. So the camping fees are substantially lower than anything really else offered in the community. However, the service is also a little different. Although we are providing the hookups, in comparison to a campground that's sitting right along a lake or a river, the demand's not quite the same. So the camping fees really only tend to come into play for the larger horse shows or things like Music Fest.
Thank you. So if anyone wants to revisit that later, they can. I think Director McCollum next.
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't sure if my mic was on. Yeah, I had a question just around the fee increases and how that will look compared to the other facilities on the island that were used to gauge where our fees land. After we've proceeded with these fee increases, will we line up with other comparables on the island, or is there still increases that would be needed to get to that point?
Over to Susan.
Through the chair. So with regards to camping fees, some of the other facilities we contacted no longer allowed camping, but the ones that do, there is a range from $20 to $35 for this year. And the ones that I had talked to directly and just didn't get their fee bylaw from, we're looking at increasing. So I think we'll be middle of the range after the 3 years with the 3%.
And is that true for the riding facilities, and not just the camping, but the other fees that we're looking at doing these bumps in addition to the 3%?
With the exception of the rider's pass, yes. The rider's pass, it varies quite a bit how different organizations do it. But that one is still lower than the other ones, even with the bump. But we didn't want to eliminate a bunch of our regular users by having a drastic increase. Some facilities, local facilities, tend to also charge, in addition to a membership, fee per visit, which would be hard to manage.
Yeah, I could see how that would be. Thanks for answering my questions. And just a final comment that I'm certainly supportive of developing the two-tiered fee structure and looking at nonprofits in a different way than private users. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCollum. Over to Dr. Hamir.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks to staff for doing all of this legwork of researching what the costs are across up and down the island. You know, I know when we did a tour of the exhibition ground site, I recall comments by some of the equestrian groups who are using the outdoor ring that, you know, they were really thankful that it was affordable because they were not able to do many of their activities in the more expensive sites, I guess. So I'm just wondering if staff have had any communications with some of the groups that are using the rings and the facilities, and how they're reacting to the changes, the potential changes.
Through the, I haven't contacted the groups that would be affected by the increase. Specifically, no. The increases, even the bumps, are small. They're not large bumps. I'm just trying to see, like camping is the largest one, which went from $16.17 to $25.
Okay. I mean, it sounds quite reasonable, and I'm in support for sure. I just, as Director McCollum just said, would be very supportive of that two-tier system, allowing some of the nonprofit groups to get a break on the costs too. So thanks again.
And thank you, Dr. Hamir. From Mount Washington, we have Director Moray.
Well, you know, I was thinking about putting my tubing sunny hot scene, but that may, you know, make people feel just too much in angst over the weather. Not surprisingly, my questions around water and the proposed change in providing water, I obviously think that we need to definitely take a look at things during water restrictions. I guess I'm curious, we don't have any ability to control at this point people bringing in bottled water. I know Music Fest has moved to a different system where they have bulk water and then encourage people to fill up their water bottles. I guess I'm concerned about more bottled water coming onto sites with those large crowds. And I think also we've seen, particularly during Music Fest, a lot of really hot weather. And of course, people do take a dip in the river, et cetera. So I guess I'm just curious about balancing out the needs for people to be hydrated, and agree with water conservation, obviously, and the fee for service, but also concerned about the possibility of more bottled water coming in. I'm just wondering if you have any commentary on any of that.
That could go over to Chris LaRose or Mark Rutten for some early engineering, but they're not here. So anybody from staff would like to comment on the possibilities around this?
I made through the chair. That could be included as part of the mandatory water plan for any events that are for over 200 people. So we can make sure that that's included when we're asking what their water plan is, that reduction of bottled water being a priority.
Would our CEO like to see a request for action attached to that, or is that okay sitting like this?
I think Susan and staff have it in hand in terms of managing it through these events and through that provision, which was not in place previous to what is proposed here.
Got it. Is that okay, Dr. Moray?
Yeah, I think if staff sort of knows the tangent that I'm on here, I just would not want to throw the baby out with the
bottled water.
I wouldn't want to try to mitigate one problem by creating something else that we don't want. So that's where I'm at. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. And one more from Dr. Grieve.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do think, though, that when it comes to budget time, we should take a very close look at making sure that utilities are charged through. I don't think utilities is something that actually needs to be subsidized. I think they're fixed cost, and to keep with the water analogy, I think it should be a wash. So I think budget time, we should have a really good look at that so that we're not actually subsidizing utilities because they're just a fact of life. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the comment. I saw a little bit of nodding around the Zoom room. So with that, any further questions before we move receipt? It doesn't appear to be. Thank you to staff for the report. So on receipt, anybody opposed? See none opposed, and there is a recommendation.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, and that is that bylaw number 244 being the Comox Valley Exhibition Grounds fees and charges, bylaw number 244/2013 be amended as attached to the staff report. A seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. Anybody opposed? And that passes. Thanks for the good comments and feedback. Next, the new business is my report, which, by the way, I intended to put in November. I just never got to it back then. So for receipt.
Receipt.
Thank you.
Second.
And second. Any comments or questions? No comments or questions. All I would say, other than all the highlights that are in there, is I do want to make the comment that I don't know about the rest of the directors and the staff, but I've really struggled and also, the last few months around the situation regarding COVID-19. I do want to say that I do hear those constituents that talk about that are unvaccinated, that have lost access to our facilities all around. I am very concerned about some of the language that has arisen against some of those constituents. I thought that even the president of France, the comments he made around, we're going to try to make people mad. And I don't like the tone, and I am hearing a lot. I think the Recreation Commission is hearing a lot through staff and others around the sadness and the around the mental health. We saw the gyms and all that, and the government is now talking about potentially mandating vaccines. So I did put a little line in the report, which I'm not sure if any doctors want to speak about that, but around our role around advocacy, you know, whether I know it's not something that's very popular to try to do, but it's true that many people have lost complete access to our facilities and programs. And I'm not sure that I'm the only one who feels queasy a little bit about this. So I just thought I'd mention that if anybody wants to take the bite, provide comments. Dr. Amir?
I wasn't going to talk about that, but I just wanted to thank you for putting that report together. First of all, it's interesting to always see like how a summarization of our activities. We forget about all of the different moving parts in the Rec Commission, and it was really nice to see everything that's been happening, and it's a lot. So congrats to both the commission and to the staff for stewarding us in this direction. You know, since you've opened the COVID-19 discussion, the only thing I have to say right now is that in the Comox Valley, COVID-19 is really raging in the community. My daughter was infected, and it's going around the high schools quite like, you know, it's a fire. And if we can, for those who are unvaccinated, my only concern is just exposure for them. I don't look at, we all know now that both vaccinated and unvaccinated can pass on the virus. And it's not so much that I don't want to be near unvaccinated. It's more I'm fearful for them, and for them to not be exposed to this disease, because we're seeing rates of hospitalization in the unvaccinated at about 50%. So I don't know if we can lead with that type of terminology. I agree that, you know, making people angry is not the way forward, but if we can do it from a position of caring for our fellow citizens, that's the way I would prefer to go.
Thanks. I appreciate those comments. And I think it's important that we speak about those things, because I mean, you don't see all necessarily all the emails that come to the Recreation Commission as the rest of you, but you know, we had one that wanted their taxes back, right? Why did I lose full access to the services? Another one very recently was asking for, is there a way that we can have some access to our facilities or programs for unvaccinated people at certain times? And it just feels like it's been all stick for them. And so I want to empathize. I don't have an easy solution. I know we are bound by provincial policies, but I personally have shifted a bit, that I do see a segregation that seems a little heavy-handed. Any other people want to comment on this? I'll just leave it there. I don't know. Oh, thank you, Dr. Hernan. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. You know, it's a complex subject to get into within the confines of this meeting when we still have an in-camera to go.
Sure.
But I just want to acknowledge how challenging it is for staff to manage this, and I think you've reflected that in your report. I also wanted to suggest that it may be worthwhile if you could share some of those emails that come in with commission members, because I haven't seen any of them, and it might be useful for us to get a sense of what some of the concerns are out there. I remember in the early stages, we actually had representation from people who wanted the pool reopened so they could swim. You know, we've heard about that, but I would find it useful to perhaps get a sampling of some of that mail that is coming in, just to get a flavor of what you're talking about here. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Dr. Lynn, and we'll see if we can make that happen either in the future or looking back at some of them. Yeah, and you're right. We do have limited time. I just thought I'd table it as part of my chair report because it's been an overarching difficulty for our service at all levels, and the change in protocols and demands have been constant. Thank you. So with that, anybody opposed to receive my report? Nobody? Thank you. And with that, the motion to go in camera.
Moved.
Second,
Thank you. And I guess we will turn off the